Good morning, everyone. We are gonna make the most delicious low glucose spiking brunch ever, and it is going to be fabulous. We're gonna make a pasture-raised frittata filled with tons of beautiful, metabolically friendly, micronutrient-rich vegetables, grain-free, sugar-free pancakes that are delicious, and then we're gonna have a homemade berry compote on top to replace syrup. It's gonna be incredible, and no one's gonna feel like they are missing anything. So why do we care about having a stable glucose breakfast? Well, because it is a superpower to have stable glucose in the morning. If you've ever felt lethargic and tired mid-morning, it may be because you had a huge glucose spike for breakfast. So this is things like white flour and wheat flour that we see in cereal. We see it in toast, pastries, bagels, croissants, donuts. So in these recipes, we're gonna use an alternative to ultra-processed flours and have much less of a glycemic response. So let's get started. We're gonna start by chopping some vegetables. The frittata is gonna have broccoli, garlic, cherry tomatoes, a little bit of feta cheese, and a bunch of pasture-raised eggs. Before we start anything else, we are gonna actually chop the broccoli and we are gonna mince the garlic. And there's a special reason for this. When you chop cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and actually traumatize that tissue with the knife, you actually expose an enzyme in the broccoli called myrosinase to air, and that activates it. And what that does is allow this beautiful compound in broccoli to be created called sulforaphane, but it only gets created if you chop the tissue and expose it to air. So we wanna do this first so that it actually has time to sit and form that health-promoting sulforaphane, which has anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-cancer properties, and just let it sit and do its thing while we actually make some of the other foods. The same is actually true for garlic, which is really interesting. When you crush or chop the garlic, it actually activates an enzyme called allinase, and that takes a precursor compound in garlic called alliin and turns it to allicin. And allicin is that incredible bioactive compound in garlic that has quite profound antibacterial properties, so much so that they've used allicin to actually combat methicillin-resistant Staph aureus bacteria. So not saying you should do that instead of normal medical care, but it's pretty incredible what some of the research shows. So that's why we're gonna start the whole meal with this so they can sit on the side and do their fun enzymatic activity. Couple fun things I like to do with broccoli. So the first thing is we really just want these lovely crowns. So I'm gonna chop it off at the top there, and then we're actually gonna save these for later. So those are gonna go off to the side. So chop the tops of those broccoli. And we want about 2 cups of this for the frittata. So I think it tastes best when they're kind of closely chopped to the crown and you just get these like little florets. I'm actually not a huge fan of big florets like that. I like them when they're nice and they get a little bit crispier. So we're gonna cut those off and save all the stems. And you may be wondering, what should I do with those stems? Well, one of my favorite rice alternatives is actually broccoli rice. And rice spikes a lot of people in our levels data set. So whenever I'm using broccoli, like for something like this, for a saute or a scramble or a frittata, we're gonna take these up and we're gonna chop them medium-sized pieces like this. And you can either put them in a Ziploc bag and use them later, or this is how simple it is to make broccoli rice. Take these stems, throw them in, pulse it a little bit. And you have all this gorgeous broccoli rice that you can just throw in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer, and you've got a rice alternative for your dinner. Another thing I love to do with my broccoli stems is to take them just like this, put them in a steaming basket over boiling water, and steam them for 5 to 10 minutes until they're fork tender. Then you can take those, throw them in the Vitamix or another blender with some nuts, some coconut milk, maybe a little apple cider vinegar, some salt, pepper, and spices, blend it up. It's like the most delicious broccoli soup ever. So those are two things you can do with your broccoli stems. And the reason we love broccoli, the reason we want to make all that sulforaphane is because sulforaphane is a compound that actually acts as a genetic regulator. It activates a genetic pathway in the body called NRF2, which upregulates our antioxidant defense system in the body. So manages those free radicals and that oxidative stress that can be damaging to our body. So we love cruciferous vegetables for that reason. And that's broccoli stems, broccoli sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, bok choy, watercress, kale. We love it. The next thing we're gonna do is mince some garlic. So I'm not a huge fan of chopping. As you can see, I've already used the food processor within 5 minutes of this meal. So I actually always have my mini food processor handy. This may be my favorite kitchen tool of all time. Put a bunch in there. We're done. Perfectly minced garlic. If I know I'm gonna be using garlic for lunch or dinner, I'll just put like 10 cloves in the morning and then just put it in the fridge. So this frittata calls for 8 eggs if you're using a 12-inch skillet. You can also use 6 if you're using a smaller skillet. So we've got this bowl here and we are going to crack all our eggs. These are organic, pasture-raised eggs, gorgeous, bright orange yolks. And the reason for that is because when the chickens are pastured, it means that they have a lot more room to roam. So they're moving around, they're using their muscles. The chickens themselves are probably gonna be more metabolically healthy. They're not stuck in little coops. And they're also able to eat natural things. And so the chickens get those nutrients and then those nutrients go to you. On a conventional farm, most of the chickens are gonna be eating grain-based feed, which is likely gonna make the omega-3 content of the egg lower and the more inflammatory omega-6 content higher. So there's actually been research to show that if you eat pasture-raised eggs compared to caged eggs, you get about 2.5 times more omega-3 fats, which are those wonderful anti-inflammatory fats that we want. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 more to go. So now we've got 8 in there. And then we wanna put 1/4 cup of an unsweetened non-dairy milk. So I'm gonna be using some almond milk here. Definitely don't get one with a vanilla flavor because that's gonna taste very odd in your frittata. And we want 1/4 cup in there. And then we're gonna do 2 cloves worth of garlic. And then we are going to be using 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. I have some lovely Maldon flake salt here. So now we're gonna whisk this up and set it off to the side while we make our pancakes. So just give it a gentle whisk. Gorgeous. Now onto our pancakes. I'm gonna grab a glass bowl here. We're gonna start with 4 eggs. And then we are going to whisk those, give those eggs a little whisk. It's also a very high protein breakfast because we have a lot of eggs in here and the nut flour has a lot of protein as well. And then we will add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. 1, 2. We're gonna do 3 ounces of an unsweetened non-dairy milk. And that'll be 1/3 cup or 3 ounces. We'll use 1 cup of fine almond flour and 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. The nice thing about most grocery stores now is that almost all of them are carrying these grain-free flours. So it is a great strategy to learn how to cook with them because it's just an instant way to keep eating a lot of your favorite foods like tortillas and breads and pancakes, but with so much less of a spike and way more nutrients. So this will be a recipe that may be your first intro to cooking with a grain-free flour, and hopefully will get you started on a fun journey with these. So we're gonna use 1 cup of almond flour. You wanna get super fine almond flour, or else these can taste a little bit mealy. I usually just take a knife and make sure I get an even cup. And then 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. Next, we're gonna use 2 tablespoons of allulose. So allulose is a non-nutritive sweetener, meaning that it does not spike your glucose or insulin, but it's natural. It's not synthetic, like an aspartame or a sucralose. So I'm using this 100% organic allulose, and we're gonna use 2 tablespoons of this to sweeten our pancakes. Based on all the research I've seen, the 3 best non-nutritive sweeteners as sugar alternatives are gonna be monk fruit, stevia, and allulose. But it's also important to remember that eating sweet foods does keep your brain excited about sugar and wanting the sugar. So trying to wean off for good is also a good strategy, but if you're gonna be making something like this, 2 tablespoons of allulose, I think is totally fine. One tough thing about some of these non-nutritive sweeteners is that you do need to find them online a lot of the time, but check Amazon. I'm using RX sugar here. I think the grocery stores will catch up eventually, but right now, monk fruit and allulose are a little bit tough to find. So stevia is always a great accessible alternative. So next, we are going to add some baking powder. We want 2 teaspoons, ideally an aluminum-free baking powder, which you can find at most stores. And then 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. We love cinnamon because it is good for glycemic control. It is an insulin sensitizer, and it tastes delicious. Last step, a pinch of flake salt, and then we're gonna just whisk this up. This then needs to sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, just to rest and let everything gel together. And last step, we need to add some coconut oil. So I already microwaved a little bit of coconut oil, and we want 1/4 cup. Get that right in there. Give it one more whisk. And then we are gonna set that aside for 5 to 10 minutes to sort of gel up. And while we do that, we're gonna cook our frittata vegetables. We also wanna add 6 scallions to this frittata. So we bought these gorgeous onions that are sort of like an onion scallion hybrid at the farmer's market today. So I'm gonna try these. I always like to sort of use what's fresh and what looks great, what's inspiring me. It doesn't necessarily need to be the exact ingredients in the recipe. So these will work just fine for scallions and give it a little bit of purple color, because more color means more micronutrients. Scallions are great. They're part of the allium family of vegetables, which is like onions and garlic and shallots and leeks. And these are sulfur-containing foods, which are really important for protein synthesis, for DNA replication, as well as DNA repair. So get your sulfur, get your allium vegetables. These are kind of like giant scallions, so I'm just gonna use 3 of them. And then we'll saute them up with a little bit of olive oil and that broccoli. That egg mixture is just gonna go right on top of all that, and then we're gonna throw it in the oven, bake it for about 15 minutes, and we have the most gorgeous egg dish ever. And fun fact about frittata, it's actually one of the best scoring breakfasts in our entire data set, which really isn't a surprise. If you think about something like frittata versus quiche, you know, frittata is just eggs and vegetables, sometimes a little cheese, virtually no carbohydrates. So frittata is a great alternative to quiche for when you're hosting a brunch or when you need to have an easy make-ahead breakfast. So there's our 3 scallions. In a few minutes, we're gonna make the berry compote, which is the alternative to syrup. And for that, we're gonna need some zested lemons and some lemon juice. So I'm gonna do that now and just get that started. So for this, we need 3 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1/2 teaspoon of fresh lemon zest. This will probably be about 3 lemons to get 3 tablespoons, 2 lemons, and then, this is a fun little trick. You put both in there together, you actually get a bunch more out. So we've got our lemon juice. And then I like to zest with one of these microplaners. You can get these on Amazon or at any kitchen store. And all you're gonna do is just essentially take the outer surface of the lemon off, and it's got so much flavor. You may recall from some of my conversations on A Whole New Level with Dr. Rob Lustig that we talk about the concept of obesogens, which are these chemicals that are found in our environment that are often synthetic chemicals that actually can promote fat storage in the body. And a big class of obesogens is pesticides. So this is one of the reasons that we do actually want to focus on organic foods, not just because they're more nutrient dense, but also because they don't have those chemicals that can promote fat storage, along with impairing our microbiome and acting as hormonal mimics, all of which is not good for the body. Okay, got lots of great lemon zest now, so we're gonna set that aside. That's going in our berry compote later. And then last thing, this is not in the recipe, but we got the most beautiful squash blossoms at the farmer's market today, and I'm just gonna quickly chop up these little miniature zucchinis because they're so cute. And the beautiful thing about a frittata is you can put really any vegetables in here. The recipe's there just to guide you, but there's no rules here. The goal is to just get as many gorgeous nutrients as possible. So we're gonna throw these in too. The next step is to saute our vegetables and get the frittata in the oven. We want to use a 12-inch cast iron or oven-safe skillet because we're actually going to cook the vegetables and then put the eggs on it and put it straight in the oven. So it can't be a regular pan, it needs to be a full-on skillet. So that's heating up. We're going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil, avocado oil, or coconut oil in there. Those are the best oils for this type of cooking because they don't oxidize and they have a good high heat point. Now we're going to get all our beautiful veggies and transfer them over. Love that sizzle. And we're gonna cook them for about 5 to 8 minutes. A key thing with cooking vegetables is that you wanna cook them until they get brighter, but not until they get dull. So you can sometimes, think about broccoli, how if you overcook it, it gets that sort of like pale green. We want it to get to that vibrant green and then take it off the heat because that means those antioxidants are gonna be as potent as possible. So we'll let those just get beautiful and vibrant for about 5 minutes. So we're gonna do a pinch of salt and a big pinch of pepper. And then we're gonna do 1/8 teaspoon of smoked paprika, which will give us a really deep earthy flavor. Sprinkle that on there and just stir it around. And you're starting to get that really vibrant green color, so we know we're almost done. You still want it to be crisp in the frittata, but a little bit, tender, not raw, and that vibrant green color. So I think we're pretty much there right now. So I'm gonna take that off the heat. So now that the broccoli's off the heat, we're just gonna pour that egg mixture that's been resting to the side right on top. Kind of make sure the broccoli is well distributed on the pan and pour it right over. And if you want to, you can add some feta on top, about a 1/4 cup. This is a gorgeous sheep's milk feta. Just sprinkle that on top. You could also use a plant-based feta or no feta and it will be just as good. Yum. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. Last step for some more color, I'm gonna just sprinkle some chopped cherry tomatoes on there. Shake it a little bit so that it all gets coated with egg. Now we're gonna pop it in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes and let it turn into a gorgeous frittata. So now we're gonna make this no sugar added berry compote, which can be a replacement for maple syrup and give it so much flavor to our pancakes. So we've got frozen berries right here. You could also use fresh berries if you want to. Turn on that medium heat and then measure out your berries. This is not an exact science, but about 3 cups. So those are on a medium heat now, and to that we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. This really makes that flavor pop. We're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of lemon zest. One-half teaspoon of flake salt. Those are basically just gonna come to a boil on the stove, and pretty quickly they're gonna liquefy, and then we're just gonna let that boil down until it's a delicious syrup. This actually liquefies so fast from frozen berry to really a liquidy berry mixture. And over the course of 5 to 10 minutes, it'll thicken up, but you do wanna actually stir it every minute or two to make sure that that berry mixture is not sticking to the bottom of the pan. So just give it a few stirs, and then I'm gonna actually taste it right now and see how tart it is, because if it's super, super tart, we may wanna add a little bit of allulose. Ooh, it's so good. I don't think we need the allulose. It's perfect. So we'll just let that sit, stir intermittently, and thicken up. Our frittata is ready. Let's check it out. Oh my gosh, it's absolutely perfect. Oh, it's gorgeous. So you really just wanna feel it in the middle and make sure the egg right in the middle is set, and then you know it's done. But it's truly like art. It's so beautiful. In the center of the table, you serve it in the cast iron skillet. Everyone loves it. And while we're here, we can dump 2 tablespoons of basil seeds or chia seeds, which is gonna give this tons of fiber and even lower the glycemic response more. So now that all of this is done, it's time to make our pancakes, and then we're ready for brunch. So the batter has been resting off to the side for about 15 minutes. And we are now gonna turn the heat on to medium. I've got a nice big pan here. We're gonna cook 4 pancakes in there at one time. You can cook this in a few different types of oil. You could use ghee, you could use coconut oil, you could use avocado oil. They're all gonna taste fine. I'm gonna use a little bit of coconut oil today. So let that heat up. Put a couple teaspoons of coconut oil in there. Swirl it around the pan. I like to take about 1/3 or 1/4 cup and just scoop out the batter and then put it right there on the pan. My favorite tip for knowing when to flip a pancake is when the bubbles pop on top of the pancake. Right when they pop, you know it's good to go. If you do it early, it's always gonna be a little bit mushy. So wait until those little bubbles pop and then give it a flip. Not a grain in sight, and yet we still have perfect browned, gorgeous pancakes. I am so excited to eat these. We'll get these cooked, maybe another minute or 2 on this side, and then we're gonna just cover them in our fabulous berry basil seed compote, maybe a little drizzle of tahini if you want. It's gonna be so good. And if you're a chocolate chip pancake person, which honestly I am, get an 88% dark chocolate bar of chocolate, which don't spike me, don't spike most people who try them in our data set. Chop it up and just sprinkle them on top. Easy, no spike chocolate chip, grain-free pancakes. And these do not affect my blood sugar. So we'll do 2 with those. And then I'm just gonna throw a few chia seeds on these guys for just a little extra fiber and some more omega-3s. I am so hungry and so ready for these guys. I think they're done. I usually just press them to see if they feel kind of firm and not mushy, and they are perfect. So that means it's go time. And I'm just gonna make them into a cute little stack here. Oh. Oh my gosh. Look at those chocolate chips. And then our last one, check out that grain-free, low spike, no sugar pancake stack. We did it. We made a low spike weekend brunch with tons of nutrients. We have our grain-free pancakes with a beautiful berry compote with tons of phytonutrients. We have our pasture-raised egg frittata filled with gorgeous vegetables. We're gonna serve this with an easy butter lettuce salad with some olive oil and some flake salt. You could even do a French vinaigrette with some low sugar vinegar to get some of those glucose stabilizing benefits of vinegar. Instead of having a huge spike and a huge crash that we often see in our data set with breakfast foods, these foods are gonna stabilize your blood sugar, which means less cravings after breakfast, more stable energy, even more stable mood. That's what we get when we keep our blood sugar more stable. I hope you love this blood sugar stabilizing brunch. If you make it, tag us, let us know what you think, and let's take a bite. So good. Enjoy.